Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. So today the Gaijin.net store sales kick off and there is a bunch of them going on now. There are some bundles, there are some standalone packs, there are also some other things such as discounts on individual vehicle packs and also packs which are being removed from the store after the sale. So if we have a look at the sale itself, it starts today from the 8th of November and it goes until the 15th. So basically you have pretty much a whole week to be able to pick stuff up if you want to. So you have plenty of time to make decisions when it comes to these things. And also at the same time, users with all the jet snails collected will receive a unique Snail Lord title. So basically each of these main packs that we're going to go through in this video have access to a specific snail decal, which is pretty cool. And if you catch them all, then you get yourself a title, which is quite a lot of money, let's be honest, for a title. But, you know, some people really like their premium vehicles. Also, if you already have some of the vehicles in these packs, that generally means that they will be discounted even further compared to what they were before. And this obviously is really nice because it basically means that the packs themselves will be cheaper and the vehicles themselves that you haven't got should be around 50% off instead of 30%, which is the standard discount. One thing to mention is I do have a affiliate link when it comes to War Thunder. Now, if you use that affiliate link, it does directly support me. It does give me a little bit of a cut of all of the sales that go on through it. Also, at the same time, you can get a 3% discount with it, but remember that the discount does not stack with other discounts, so you probably, won't get it. But also, at the same time, you do get the unique decal in the game, so you can get access to my decal and also, as I said, support me. So just to let you know, there will be a pinned comment with it so you can have a look. Another thing that is also happening is there are discounts for specific vehicle packs, so 50% discount is active on all 4th and 5th rank vehicle packs and 30% on active 6th rank vehicle packs as well. Obviously this does not count the last 2 major recent updates, their vehicles, because, well, they never do that. They always make sure that those ones are staying full price. And the last thing is the packs that will be removed from the store that we talked about after the 15th will be the Mikuma pack, the Shenyang F5, the USS Helena, the Saab J29D, the Hunter FJ9, the Sabre Skyblazers, and also the German Fiat G91R4. So basically what I'm going to do here is in this video, we're going to go over the birthday bundle packs. In another video, we're going to go over some of my picks for the 50% discount and 30% discount. And then in another video, we'll go over the packs which are being removed. And that is how we're going to do it. So there will also be chapters, so if you want to go to a part of the video that you want to see for the specific video, don't worry, I'll include them, so make sure to use them. Let's get into it. So the first pack that we have is a American pack, and what this pack includes is the XM1 GM, or the General Motors, and then the F5C. Both of these vehicles are pretty good in their respective game modes, and we'll go through each of them. You also get the unique decal, the USA Jet Snail, and the unique title of Hot Shot buying this pack. So first of all, you've got the XM1. Now, the XM1, in my opinion, is probably the second best vehicle when it comes to premium vehicles in the game. The main reason for this is because it has a really good mix of mobility and also firepower. Basically, when you have a look at the firepower, it has M735 at 9.3. This is plenty good to be able to go through anything that you face. Sometimes you will come up against targets where you will actually have to aim, but hopefully that is okay. The main thing that this has, though, is its mobility. This thing has a 1500 horsepower engine for a 50-ton vehicle, so it can motor around at a ridiculous rate, just moving around to be just insanely fast. So the other thing that the XM1 has, even though it doesn't have a ton of armor on it, what it has is a pretty fun little lineup around it. You got the Striker, you've got the Bradley, so you have really good support vehicles. You have the M60A3 TTS as a backup vehicle, and you also have the MBT70, which in its own right is fantastically fun as well, because it has the APFS DS 152mm, and then also the 20mm on top to give you good backup support. So the lineup for this thing is fantastic. It's also backed up by some really good aircraft, one being a squadron vehicle and one being an event vehicle. You have the FJ4B with the 5 bullpups, and then you have the A4E with the 5 bullpups as well. So basically what you have in this vehicle is just a monster when it comes to dealing with ground targets. So the XM1 works supremely well with these vehicles, and will do it will always be useful because it has the speed and mobility. Its actual armor though is pretty trash, and against pretty much everything that you face. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, it can't have everything. If it did have everything, it would be very overpowered, but it still has a little bit of survivability, mainly down to 2 factors. So first of all, it has a blowout rack at the back here, so you can actually pop it and it doesn't die, which is pretty nice. And then also, if you shoot through the turret, normally you'll knock 1, but maybe not 2 of the individuals. The commander can fire the gun, so if the gunner gets taken out, you can still fire, which is super annoying to face against, but a lot of tanks have that now at top tiers, and generally you'll be able to punch through this armor hard if you face it. So it's not like a survivable tank, but it's just really mobile. It's got a really good gun, really good reload for the 105, the standard one, and then also good gun depression. It has just all the bells and whistles you want from a vehicle like this. Has the laser rangefinder, has the thermals for the gunner but not the driver, has artillery, you know, has even a worthless HES shell. Like, it has everything that you would want with this. You also get 2000 GE with the XM1 and 2000 with the F5C, so in the pack overall you get 30 days of premium and also 4000 GE along with the vehicles, which is pretty nice. So if you're looking to grind America, the XM1 is not a bad pick. There isn't anything else at this BR when it comes to high tier premiums which are worth looking at, and the rank 5 premiums that America have, you know, the T54E1 is interesting, but it has its issues, and so does the T114. So this is probably the best bet for grinding and has ridiculous RP stuff on it. The only thing you got to watch out for though is it doesn't have huge SL rewards. So while you're grinding through the tree, you're probably going to run out of SL as you go along if you don't grind properly and instead just use this premium to get through everything, because of the fact that it has such low returns on its SL. When we have a look at the F5C, the F5C is 10.3, so you can't run these two vehicles together. So what you're basically looking for is a vehicle which is good at 10.3, where America does have a good ground lineup, by the way, at 10.3, but this thing's ordnance isn't the best when it comes to it. You know, you basically get the bullpups again, which is fine, but normally you encounter a bunch of missile AA at this BR, so you can just get annihilated. The main thing where this is useful is in realistic. You get 2 AIM-9Es, which isn't the best, but good enough for the vehicle, but you also get something which is very, very useful. You get a bunch of countermeasures, so you get 60 of them, so you can basically make sure that missiles don't hit you. They buffed flares a lot in the last update, severely, and you also have an RWR for defense as well. So this thing can be used as a dogfighter. I've seen it used very effectively while I've been playing stuff like 9.7 and 9.3. It seems very competent as a machine, and also has that crazy SL reward that we talked about, compared to the XM1, which is pretty low. So it has the crazy RP and crazy SL award to be able to, you know, get through the trees. It's a little bit different when it comes to this tech tree, because you do have the AVA-A as well, and the F-89s, which are pretty good. So it's not a clear choice for this, but since the XM1 is a clear choice, if you want to grind through America, I feel like this as a pickup alongside it is not a bad one. It would also be very useful in the future, obviously, as the BRs expand. Right now it's in that 11.0 to 10.0 bracket, so that pretty much means that it's going to have a few issues when it gets up-tiered, but once you hit that 11.3 area, or 11.7, when the BRs expand to that, you will be top dog in those respective BR brackets. One thing to note as well is America has no shortage of jets, and they're probably going to have one being added to the game pretty much every update going forward, just because of the amount that they produced over time. So this will always have a use, even if you have the whole of the tech tree researched, kind of similar to where I'm nearly at with this thing, and you'll still be able to use it, you know, to research things. It's kind of as simple as that. So this will never have any issues when it comes to, you know, not being useful, and the XM1 is a powerhouse and will be for a long time. For the USSR, you get the T72AV Terms T-Pack, and then also you get the SU7BMK, and also the pack. So you get 4000 G along with these things, and also 30 days of premium, plus the USSR Jet Snail and the unique title of Comrade, which is pretty interesting. So the terms, what is the terms? This is a massively upgraded variant of the T72A, and it's upgraded in the areas that you'd want it to be, but it does lack in a few others. So the T72A was one of those vehicles. It was probably one of my first proper top MBTs that I really enjoyed spading, and because of that I have a really fond memory of playing a vehicle like this. I haven't played the terms itself, but the terms is just it, but better. I have played all of the other 9.7 Soviet vehicles, the T-72B, the T-64B when it was 9.7, and also the 1989 version of the T-72B. When you have a look at the terms, you have a pretty simple setup of things. What this vehicle gets over the standard T-72A are massive upgrades. The first one is the sights. So this gets access to not just gunner thermals, but also commander thermals in the form of Gen 2 thermals for both. So you're never going to have an issue being able to see any enemies with this machine. The other thing that you also get is 3BM42, so you get a better round alongside your thermals. You even get a dozer blade, the new mechanic which they added up recently in the last update. The place that the terms lacks is its armor. If you can lower plate it pretty easily, a lot of vehicles now can upper plate it, and many can shoot the great shot, which if you angle even slightly and stuff like the terms, you shoot through the road wheel and it annihilates everything in the center. It does have the slightly better auto-loading system compared to the T64, which is a vertical one, so it takes up way more space, but they don't actually improve the engine from the T72A, so you're a little bit less mobile than some of the other vehicles at the BR, but you have so many nice little factors on it. You have the auto-loading system, the 7.1 second reload, which is nice. It's not the best reload at the BR, but it does really well, and you're also at 9.7. And what 9.7 means is you are at a point where you are slightly below the top BR brackets of 11.0 to 10.0. This means that you get down to quite a lot into 9.3 and 9.0s. I've seen many of these vehicles around 9.0 while I've been grinding specific vehicles for other nations. So even though your armor isn't up there, your mobility of your turret isn't great, your gun depression isn't the best, all of the other factors are supremely good on this vehicle. Every time I've seen one of these in a service record, I don't know why, but it has a really bad win rate. I have no idea why, because when I look at the general factors of this thing should be way better than it is. This thing should actually probably be a 10.0 tank. It is a fantastic vehicle, And just to give you an idea, when I spaded through stuff like the T72A and the T72B, you can see the T72A, we went plus 40 in it, 51% win rate, and then the T72B, 73% win rate, nearly, plus 60 at that point, and then the T64B, plus 40 in that thing. These vehicles are really good, and you've just got to watch out for some of the factors that don't work on them. They don't reverse, so once you get into a position, you're not getting out. So you have to make sure that you are focused on knowing where you're going and not getting yourself into trouble. It does have smoke grenades though on this one, so you can actually survive by going into a bit of a rough spot. One of the problems with the other T-72s was in night battles you were screwed. That isn't the case in the terms. This thing should be fantastic. It should be absolutely amazing to play and a joy to play at 9.7 along with all of the other vehicles that the Soviets have. So it's always weird to me when I see them have negative win rates, because this should be a standout vehicle for its BR. It is a fantastic piece of machinery for the game. Then you've got the other side of things, which is the Su-7BMK. Now the Su-7BMK shares the same rank as the AK-38. The AK-38 isn't a great vehicle when it comes to its uses, because basically you only get access to the 2 R60s. So yeah, you can get 2 nearly guaranteed kills, but that's all you can do in the match. The Su-7BMK is kind of limited in its uses also. This is a ground attacker by trade. You do get a strike aircraft spawn, so what you can do is exactly how I spaded the 2 standard Su-7s in the tech tree. You can load up on bombs, the 4.500s and 2.250s. You can bomb a base, you can shoot down an AI, and then you can go back to base and repeat. And if you do this, you're going to make a ton of SL, a ton of RP, and you're just going to, survive a lot more than you're generally used to, and also you're not going to use it for its for purposes that it's not designed for. This is a ground attacker by trade. This is not something which is really designed to be able to dogfight. It doesn't dogfight well. Once it loses its energy, which takes a few turns, it is a huge target and really easy to missile, and also really easy just to shoot down with guns. So generally you don't want to do that. You want to go fast, you want to hit, the ground targets, then you want to go back to base and realistic. Do that over and over and over again. It's boring, it's monotonous, it's not the funnest way of playing the game, but also at the same time, you know what it is? Efficient. And that's what you're looking for in your premiums. There is a lot of vehicles to be really, which are really fun in the Soviet tech tree around these BRs. Stuff like the MiG-15s are really fun. The AK-38, surprisingly, eventually, once I got some of the mods on it, it was actually really fun too. Then, obviously the MiG-23s, MiG-21s, the MiG-9s are pretty fun, and the Su-9 is really fun as well. So the Su-7 can be the vessel to be able to grind all this stuff out. I kind of relate it to the Ju-288. The Ju-288 in the German tree is fantastic at just grinding out SL and RP, so you can get vehicles that you really want to play. The Su-7 is the same, where it's not a fantastic vehicle in itself, but it's a really good vessel in order for you to play the stuff that you want to. It also does get access to the S-24s, which you can use in ground realistic and have a bit of fun with them if you want. They do a ton of damage, which is quite nice. And also, you do get CCIP for your cannons, rockets, and bombs, which does make it pretty fun. I spaded the 2 standard Su-7s in the Build-A-Bear event recently. They're stupid easy to play. You might not get great win rates with them because generally, you're basically just flying to base and then back again, then over and over and over. So, you're not doing anything crazy. But you can see here, we had a 37% win rate, but we had a positive KD because I was shooting down AIs. Decent ground pounding as well, and then the Su-7 we even had a 72% win rate with once again 62 air kills and 7 deaths, and yes, there was some players in there. If you can do the same thing with the Su-7BKL, then you can make yourself a ton of RP and SL just grinding the general tech tree. I don't think it's useful in ground realistic though. It's only really useful in air realistic in general. The British have a slightly cheaper pack, basically because the vehicles aren't as good. This is the one which has the Reaper pack, which has the Meteor F Mark 8 Reaper, and also the Shock Cal Delay, which once again has access to 30 days of premium and 4000 GE on top of what you all get. You get a unique title, which is kind of a funny one. You get the Dab Hand. And then also, you get the unique decal, the Britain Jet Snail. So there you go, he's got a little top hat on. The Shock Cal Delay is a pretty decent vehicle. It's just an upgraded Centurion. They've just made it heavier with some extra ERA. Generally at 8.3, you run into mainly APFS DS, so the ERA isn't actually that useful. So pretty much what you have is extra armor, which just makes you heavier and means that you're a bit slower. You do get a 750 horsepower engine though, so you can at least move around a little bit quicker than some of its other contemporaries, supposedly getting up to 48 kilometers an hour. Good luck with that. It'll take you a little bit of time. It has access to the 105mm and then the standard reload of for the manual loader, and also it is made of ammo, so you need the first stage ammo stowage, and that's really about it, because otherwise you're going to fill this front up here, and what's going to happen is you're going to explode quite a lot. The general armor, as I said, profile is not very good, but all of the other factors are good. Great gun depression on it. It also has access to a ton of smoke grenades. It has 20 smoke grenade launchers, which are really nice on it, but not just that, it also gets 10 extra ones. So the survivability through smoke grenades is incredibly good. Then you've got the laser rangefinder, and then also you've got APFS DS with the M111. So you have a ton of really good factors on this. It's just the mobility is a bit lacking, which is a bit of a problem, but everything else is really nice. Also, recently, the 8.3 lineup has got a ton of buffs to it when it comes to ground forces. You have the Oliphant Mark 1A now, the Roycat Mark 1D, the ZA35, and also the Chieftain Mark 3. So all of these have been great additions to the lineup. Before, it was literally just the two Chieftains, and that was it. You also have access to the Warrior you can bring along with this, the ZT3A2 if you're a masochist, and even you can bring along the Chieftain Marksman as well. So you just have a really banger lineup. For some reason, this lineup for me has a terrible win rate, probably because 9-0 for so many nations are so strong, and you can get fully up-tiered into it. But also, it's a pretty nice lineup. It's also really your only choice. Generally, you have the Roycat 105, but I would say that's one of the weaker vehicles for premiums when it comes to Britain. I'm pretty sure Britain at some point is going to get another premium in this area, so the Shock Cal might be disappearing at some point. Actually, no, it is disappearing, because eventually this vehicle is going to go into the Israeli tech tree, so it'll be removed from the British tech tree, but if you do purchase it for the British tech tree, then you do get to keep it in the British tech tree, so that's something to think about. But if you like the Centurion platform, if you enjoy what it does, you know, this is a pretty decent vehicle, and it does have a good lineup around it. You're not left in a bit of an awkward place. Then you've got the Meteor F Mark 8 Reaper. So the Meteor F Mark 8 Reaper finds itself at rank 5, so it's useful for researching all of the tech tree apart from these three vehicles here. And, you know, it was actually 50% off recently. You could have picked it up on sale, and the real thing is, with the Reaper, is it's just a Meteor with extra weapon ordnance. And as a person who has spaded all of the Meteors when it comes to the tech tree, this one ain't worth it. It has for £1,000. It has a bunch of RP3s, which is kind of cool, but pretty much what you're getting here is just a Meteor with slightly extra ordnance, which isn't that useful overall. It's got a beautiful skin on it though, so at least there's that. But one of the problems with the Meteors is the game has just moved on. You have a ton of vehicles that are a lot faster than it at its PR, a lot more maneuverable as well, which was one of the things that the Reaper used to be really good at, and also just has better guns. So this thing really is outmatched in general. You can use this in ground realistic, but it's not fast enough. What you'll do is you'll get shot down by radar AA. It's just how it is, but at least you can dogfight in it sometimes, which would be kind of useful, and face stuff which isn't stuff stuff like some of the acts which are really good against it, like the 23, and hopefully you can do alright in it. But I've just got to say, like, my experience, you know, spading these two right here, and also this one, was not fun. But that was when the Sabres and the MiG-15 Bis was 8.3, so it might be a little bit better now, but I think a better option is still the C-Vixen from before. The Attacker also is not a bad option, because it gets the two 1,000 pounders and also the 20mm on it. So for me, the Reaper's a bad pick. The Shotcal Dillette is a pretty decent pick though, so maybe you pick up the Dillette without the Reaper, or maybe you get them both with the idea that, you know, this one is eventually going to be taken out. But well, sorry, not this one, but the Dillette is going to get taken out instead. The next one is good old Germany, and this has access to the G91R4, and then also the Leopard L44, the Leopard 1, the A1A1. You also get the German Jet Snail and the unique title of Meister. You get 4000G and 30 premium days as well. So the 9.0 lineup that the Leopard A1A1 L44 sits in is already insanely strong. The only issue with it is if it gets up-tiered into 9.7.10.0, it can have a few issues, but generally it's not too bad. It also just got bolstered recently with a Weasel 1A2 and also an Ocelot, a pretty decent scout tank with high firepower and a pretty decent AA as well. So the L44 now joins the 1A5, the Leopard A1A1, the M48 Super, which recently got down-tiered, the TAM, the Beglet Panzer, the Marder if you want to bring that as well, also the Gepard, and also the JPZ, which is an incredibly undervalued vehicle for this BR as well. So this thing is just really, really good. It is very similar to the Leopard 1A5. The main difference between it and the 1A5 is this has access to the Rheinmetall 120mm L44 cannon. This means that it fires DM13, which pens 393, 340, 227. This round will go through anything that you face. It's incredibly powerful in general, and also it does have gunner thermals on it, so you don't have to be worried about night battles. It also gets a laser rangefinder on it, which is really, really strong, and you can basically just sit near the back of the map and use it. Also gets smokes. I believe it gets 2 launches of the smokes, and I just want to see, is the Lotus hand still in the breach? Ooh, yes it is. The Lotus hand is still in the breach. But also, you know, you have the commander who can actually fire the main armament, so if the gunner gets taken out and the commander doesn't, you can still fire back. The only issue with the Leopard is it doesn't have great armor. Its armor is not the best, but with a stabilized 120 at 9.0, what you can do with its 9 degrees of gun depression and decent reload is you can peek with the stabilizer, smash your targets, and then go back down again. Keep doing that over and over and over again. You know, that's what works really well for this machine. It's fantastic at it, and I've always thought the L44 should be a high BR. I believe this thing should be 9.3. But isn't, probably because it is a premium, or probably because of other reasons, I don't know. But this vehicle has always punched above its weight. It's a fantastic vehicle, really good RP rewards, a bit of a struggle when it comes to SL rewards, so be careful about that. You know, you'll run out of SL before you'll, you know, stop grinding things if you're doing it from a stock point of view. But this thing has a fantastic lineup around it, and also is really, really fun. It's also slightly cheaper than some of the other packs as well at $54.99. Then, along with the L44 and the fantastic lineup you have, guess what also complements it? A bunch of really good aircraft. Not just the G91R3 with its Nords, which yes, did get nerfed, but it's still very, very, very good. You also, in the pack, get the G91R4. And the G91R4, the difference between it and the R3 is that this has access to air-to-air missiles, so this is actually useful in aerialistic as well with its 4 AIM-9Bs, and it gets the Nords as well, but it does have 12.7s instead of the 30s. So this thing is also a monster, and gets a really cool camo, and also can support the ground realistic lineup or ground arcade lineup, which, well, obviously it can't in ground arcade, but simulator lineup as well if you want, if it's in the area. So this thing is fantastic. It's really good in ground, really good in air. It can do whatever it wants. It does get outmuscled by a few things in air, but that's why you have the missiles, so you can, you know, basically guide them to your whim. And in ground, it's just fantastic with the 9.0 lineup or with the 8.7 lineup that Germany has. Germany has one of the strongest, if not the strongest, top tiers, and vehicles like this are the reason why, along with the L44. This is a fantastic pack, and if you are interested in Germany, this has to be a pick. Japan also has a pack which has in it the Type 74 Mod G Kai and also the JASDF Sabre. Now, the Type 87, or sorry, the Type 74 is one of those vehicles that's at a bit of an awkward BR. It's at 9.0, and the only other vehicles that are there are the Type 93 and also the Type 16. Now, the reason why I'm saying that it's a bit awkward, even though you technically have a pretty full lineup here, the Type 93 is not as bad as people say. You just have to catch vehicles when they're at their apex, or catch vehicles when they're going in for an attack run. It's actually pretty easy to kill stuff with this thing. It's not very good against helicopters, though. The Type 16 is fantastic once it's upgraded, but the problem that this thing has, and the problem that the Type 93 has, is at their end of the line vehicles. So their mod costs are through the roof. So you can see 32,000 to get the Type 93 shell. The LWS is 24,000. So in order to research this thing fully, it's going to take you absolutely ages. That's the general problem with this lineup. But luckily, over the last few years, the Japanese have got themselves a really nice set of lineups. So, you know, along with the Type 89 and Type 87, you now have a new Type 74, you have the E and then the F now, then the C as well. So this just means that it's a little bit nicer for the Type 74G. If you get knocked out, you can have an MBT supporting it, making it slightly better. The major difference between this and the standard Type 74 in the tech tree is this one gets access to thermals. It gets gunner thermals. It also has the Type 93 shell, which is super good. One of the best rounds around this BR, if not the best, along with the 8.7 one. It gets access to smoke grenades and also the LWS and LR. This thing is a really good vehicle. You know, it doesn't have the best gun depression, but that doesn't matter too much on the vehicle because you do have hydropneumatic suspension. So what you can do is you can angle the vehicle to what you want it to be angled at, and then that just makes it much easier to be able to, you know, put your gun where you want it to be. You just need a little bit more movement in sorting it out. It also has a 637 horsepower engine, meaning that you can move around at a decent pace. It doesn't have great armor, but it has the abilities to be able to be used at long range, and also to be able to use that ridiculously good Type 93 shell. The reload is the standard for the 105 of this tier, the L7, at 8.7 seconds stock, but will get better since it's a manual reload. The turret rotation isn't the best, but once again, your crew skills will hopefully increase it. And also the first stage ammo stowage being 16 pieces, it includes this little bit here. So it's kind of easy to knock it out because you just have to shoot here, or you can shoot here and knock out the gunner and also the secondary gunner, as we'll call it, in the form of the commander. This is a very good vehicle for 9.0. It's a pretty bog standard one. It's just got a little bit of a struggle when it comes to its lineups, but it has a lot more support than it used to. A vehicle which isn't doing very well right now, and there's no way they're not going to add another vehicle to to Japan for a premium, probably next update, maybe next year, because there's nothing at rank 6, so normally you want to see a rank 6 vehicle. They just added some, such as like the Swedish J35, so look forward to that. One of the major issues is they only have the JASDF, the F86 F40. Now the F40 is in a really rough place. It has been for a long time. I have spaded one of the F40s. I can't remember which one it was. This one, I spaded the Chinese one while I was getting the air-to-air missiles, and basically this is a saber which is one of the better sabers in the game, but it has a severe issue, and that severe issue is at 9.3 you have stuff like the MiG-21s, you even have the J-7 too, and you end up just defensively flying over and over and over and over again, and it can work, and it can be really effective, and you can get a lot of kills doing it, but you are under constant pressure. You have to constantly look behind you. You have to make sure that every time that you're fighting, that you are looking behind, and you're having to 360 go around the place, where a lot of aircraft you don't have to do that. You can just kind of sit there and you can just kind of chill because you have the speed. So the F-40 is in a really rough place right now. It has been for a long time. It is really good at defensively flying, and it does get access to the air-to-air missiles, 2 AIM-9Bs, which are not the best, but it can slow vehicles down so you can get the guns on target, which is quite nice. Its actual usability in ground is very limited. You only have 2 1,000-pounders, which can work, but also at the same time, it's not the best, because you have radar-guided AA, and you have to get close to the targets. This thing doesn't have bullpups or anything like that. So it's just a rough vehicle. It's not in a great place. It's one of those which you have to be on high alert all the time when you play it. So that's a bit of an issue. It does also have access to really nice rewards though, good RP and also very good SL rewards, so you will make money in this thing, even if you just ground pound. But the thing is, as a general vehicle, in a one-to-one matchup against a lot of other planes, there's not a ton you can do into it apart from waiting for the enemy to make a mistake while being offensive and being aggressive on you. And generally, when it comes to War Thunder, I don't like vehicles that the enemy has to make mistakes in for me to win. And because what if they don't make a mistake? Then you just screw. The Italians also get a pack with the OF-40 Mark II and also the Fiat G91 R4. I've got to say, the unique decal in this one, the Italian jet snail, is probably one of my favorites. It's just a snail with a Centurion hat on. And also you get the unique title of Maestro, which I think is pretty cool. This set of packs also come with 30 days of premium and 4,000 GE, so you can use that basically where you want. And let's talk about the OF-40 MTCA. So this is the vehicle that you get, and nowadays it's in such a much better position than it was before. This used to have the problem that the Japanese vehicle had, the Type 74, where it didn't have a lineup around it. But as you can see, they've added the Leopard 1A5, they've obviously got the Romore, and then also they bumped up the standard Centauro by giving it the APF SDS, the M735, and also the DM23 on it, so making it a lot more combat effective. So this thing now has a lineup around it. You can even put it to 9.3, but I would say that's not a great idea. What's the difference between this and the standard Mark II? Well, this one has access to a beefier engine. That's pretty much it. So it gets an 884 horsepower engine, where the standard one gets an 830 horsepower engine. Everything else is pretty much the same on it. It doesn't get access to thermals like a lot of other premiums. It doesn't get access to a ton of bells and whistles apart from laser rangefinder and smoke grenades. It does get access to DM23, which is completely fine for the vehicle. But one thing to note, compared to some of the other vehicles that are around this BR, such as the Leopard 1A5, it gets access to the M33. So you actually don't even have the best round of this BR either, even compared to the ones that you have in the standard tech tree. It doesn't have the best rewards either, once again struggling on the SL front. And the other things about it though, like the 105 has a standard reload, it is a really maneuverable vehicle, so it's fantastic at moving around. What I actually class this thing as, and always have, is this is just the slightly better Leopard. And the reason for it is because its mobility is super good. Also, its gun handling is fantastic, because it has the two-plane stabilizer and also the 23 degrees of movement of it. It also has the 9 degrees of gun depression, which is really nice, and it's slightly more spacious. So what this means is if you shoot this thing, it's a little bit harder to pop in one shot. The turret itself, it doesn't have a ton of armor on it. It just has a bit of spaced armor on the sides, so you can go straight through it. And because there's no ammo in the turret, if you go hold down on this thing, it's really hard just to one shot. Whereas other vehicles with ammo in the turret, it's pretty easy to one shot them if you know where to shoot. So the OF-40 is slightly more survivable, even though it doesn't have more armor, just because of the spacious amount of it and also where the crew are spaced, and at the same time it's a little bit more mobile. The issue though is it doesn't get thermals, but generally I don't think you need thermals. Thermals have got a bunch of nerfs over the last few years to make them a lot less useful, and also at the same time you don't get too many night battles at 9.0 unless you get full up tiers, and at that point with the lineup you have the Leopard 1A5 if you need to bring in thermals, and also you can, as I said, up tier with the Dardo, so that has thermals as well, and so does the Centauro, so you have that stuff covered. Generally, the Italian tree is actually not that bad to grind through. The lower ranks have a bit of problems with power of their guns, but generally once you get to the mid stuff, if you like American vehicles, then it's not too hard to get through, and you have some really fun light vehicles to play as well, which are fantastic, so, you know, I would say give them a go if you want to have a bit of fun. So generally, you know, I don't think you need the MTCA to get through it, but if you want to get through it quickly to get to this top tier stuff, then you can do. There's also not too much expansion left for Italy compared to other nations when it comes to its vehicles, so I'm not sure its usefulness in that regard, you know, how it's going to be useful going forward. But if you're looking for something to grind out the Italian tree now and you don't have it ground out, it's not a bad decision. Then you got the G91R4. We talked about this one before when it came to Germany. This one is amazingly good. It's exactly the same as the German one, just gets slightly different matchmaking, so it has access to the Nords and has access to the AIM-9Bs. So what you get is slightly nerfed Nords, which are still very powerful when it comes to the game, and also AIM-9Bs, which are also really strong and aerialistic. This is a fantastic plane. It's really, really nice. It works extremely well in ground forces and also works really well in air forces. The only thing I would say about this thing is the Italian tech tree for aviation is fantastic to grind through. It is a really nice experience. There's a ton of stupidly fun planes in this, you know, ranging from all the way from the like C202 all the way into the G56. The propeller aircraft are really, really good and really fun. Then for rank 5, you know, the Vampire's good, the CL-13 isn't that bad now, the F-84G, then also the G91 struggle a little bit, but the YS isn't that bad, and also the Sagittario. Well, the Sagittario is the Sagittario. Hopefully it goes down in repair cost next economy balance. But yeah, if you want to grind through the aviation quickly, you get the G55S, but this will also be useful for grinding out everything in the tech tree at this moment, since Italy doesn't have a rank 7 yet, which I'm sure they'll get at some points. But yeah, this is fantastic, really good vehicle, and then the MTCA is pretty good as well, but I would personally say it's not as good as some of the other ones which are on offer, but it's still fantastic in its own right. I really, really like going back to these two vehicles in the tech tree. They're really fun to play. Then when you have a look at France's bundle, this has access to the Super AMX-30, the Voto 2A, and also the unique decal, the France Jet Snail, and the unique title of Virtuoso, along with 4,000 GE, not 40,000, and also 13 days of premium account. So when we have a look at the Super AMX, the first thing that has to be talked about is, once again, lineups. So most of the other premiums by this point in the game's history have lineups around them. The AMX-30 Super doesn't. It still sticks at 9.0. It's the only 9.0 in the game. When when it comes to France, and that is a little bit rough because the stuff which is below it at 8.3 doesn't really fit with it. The AMX30 Super is basically a souped up standard AMX30. What you do is you lose the 20mm, which sucks, but what you gain is you gain a beefy engine, the 752 horsepower one, and also you get thermals. So that is like the two huge upgrades. You get gunner thermals on it. You get access to the OFL 105F1, which is a fantastic round for 9.0. Very, very powerful. You get a bunch of smoke grenades. You get some laser rangefinder, which is really nice. And you get generally good mobility, good gun depression. You just lose the 20, which sucks, because the 20mm on the MX-30 is fantastic. It works extremely well. So the other thing as well on this vehicle is the first stage ammo storage is in the back of the turret. So if you come up against stuff which has really good pen, then you just literally will die, because it will go through the turret, hit the ammo, and then you'll go boom, which isn't very fun. Has the four people in it, obviously, with the standard reload rate of the 105, which everything else has. The armor isn't the best, but good mobility, good gun. It's a fantastic vehicle. It works really well. It just doesn't have a lineup, and it hasn't ever had a lineup when it comes to its history. The only thing you could run it with is maybe 9.3 and AMX32, but you don't really want to up-tier this stuff, you know. And the closest other things are 8.3 or 8.0 with the Brenu or the Brennus, and then the Acra, and then also the Mars and the AMX10RC. And once again, you have a fantastic 8.3 lineup now. SK105 is ridiculously strong as a vehicle. If you haven't played this thing, highly recommend it. And also, at the same time, you can run the B2 and the Brennus together and have a bit of fun. So the Super is just in an awkward spot. It's a fantastic vehicle, but it just doesn't have backup to it. And then when you have a look at the Vautour, which is obviously rank 5 for France, one thing must be noted, once again, I'm pretty sure that France, alongside Japan, will get a rank 6 premium soon. So stuff like the Vautour may become a little bit less worth if they add some kind of rank 6 premium. They've been doing it slowly but surely to every other nation, and I'm sure France will be next on the block, or somebody like, as I said, Japan might be next on the block with a premium. The Vautour 2A IDF is an Israeli Vautour, so this one might actually, well, it will be taken out of the game when the Israeli aviation tech tree is added, so that is something to think about. It will become a hidden vehicle for the French, so it will have a bit of uniqueness on that front if they decide to add it to the Israeli tech tree. What it has access to is a bunch of different bomb loads, which are pretty nice. It gets access to the Chafriers. The Chafriers aren't very good, especially for this platform. But pretty much what you have here is something similar to the SU-7 BKL, or the SU-7 that we talked about before, where you bomb a base, you go back to your airfield, and then you just repeat over and over and over again until you get a ton of SL and a ton of RP. This thing is a lot less survivable than the SU-7 though, because it's a lot slower, and also it doesn't get all the nice tricks on it. It doesn't get the CCIPs or anything like that. It is pretty weak in that regard. It is quite nice that it has the multi-role capability with the Chafriers, but generally, because of the fact that this is a Vautour and it's not a very maneuverable vehicle, using the Chafriers can be super annoying. In general, the setup that you need for them is really, really bad, and same with the 30mm as well. This thing becomes food to missile aircraft quite a lot. It's in a bit of a rough place in general, but what it is really good at is generally just bombing bases, getting out of there and just doing it over and over again. And one thing that France has in aviation is a terrible tech tree, especially around rank 5. As somebody who's spaded pretty much all of these vehicles, there isn't many here which felt really nice to play. The F-84G was alright, and then either the 2A or the 2C wasn't too bad. The rest rest felt absolutely awful. The Mystère 4A felt okay, but it's not a good vehicle. The Super Mystère felt bad. The Étendard felt bad. So you already have all of these vehicles which don't feel great. So if you want to get to the top echelons, something like the Vautour and just bombing bases and going back to base might be a way to go. It's not very fun playstyle. It's not engaging. It's not that interesting. But it'll get the job done if you want to get the vehicles that you want to get, just like the Ju-88, or sorry, the Ju-288 and other machines. So this is not a good vehicle right now. It doesn't work well, it doesn't fit the meta, but it's good at researching. And the AMX-30 is a fantastic vehicle in the meta, but it has no support. So it's definitely one of the weaker packs out there when it comes to this sale. Now we're on to the China pack. This has access to the Type 69-2G and also the Shenyang F5, the China Jet Snail, and also the unique title Shifu, which I think is actually pretty cool. So when we have a look at the two vehicles that are available for China, they're definitely weaker than some of the other ones that we've seen, but they are also lower BR. The T69 2G that you see right here, this vehicle has pretty bad horizontal traverse for the vehicle and also very bad gun depression. Its reload rate is also longer than the standard one, which is 8.7 at this BR. That's normally what you want to find from a 105. It does have a manual loader and also at the same time does have ammo all over the turret, which means that it will go pop quite easily on the vehicle itself. But the first stage at least is in the fuel tanks and also has ERA in front of it, so that will cause a little bit more protection for the vehicle, even if it won't be too much against APF-SDS. So this vehicle in general, it's not really the greatest. It doesn't have access to thermals. It does have access to the Type 83 APDS though, which is pretty good, but nothing special compared to other vehicles that are around the BR. It does have access to artillery, does have good smokes as well, has 8 of them overall, so at least 2 launches, and the mobility is okay on this thing. It's not as good as others because it doesn't really go backwards. So pretty bad gun depression, worse reload than pretty much everything else that we've had a look at today. Also, reverse gear is bad, and generally the actual handling of the gun when it comes to the horizontal traverse and the elevation is really bad and not great gun depression. So not the best vehicle in the business, but what it does have is a pretty fantastic lineup around it. You know, you got the PTZ-89. If you've never played this, really fun. 5-second reload on a 120, really fun, and also stock APF-SDS. It's awesome. Then you got a radar guided AA, fantastic. Then ZTZ-59D1, very similar to the T69-2G, apart from it's slightly worse, but it does get thermals, so that is the advantage of it compared to some of its other statistics. The M60A3 TTS, fantastic vehicle once it's fully modified. It does everything well. It also does have thermals, so it's pretty nice. So you have all of these vehicles here in this 8.7 lineup, which is fantastic. It works really well together. And also this thing gets the DTB round, which is a basically a HEVT shell. So you range your targets, then you shoot for that range, and then it blows up at that proximity. It doesn't work very well, but it is there, it does exist, and the APF-SDS is going to be your main round anyway. So this thing has a really good lineup around it, and also it stays away from the 10-0 bracket, which is quite nice. But it will get uptiered a lot into 9093 because that's where a lot of the other premiums are that people actually play. So for me, this is one of the weaker vehicles, if not the weakest out of the ones available. Another very weak vehicle right now is the Shenyang F5, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Shenyang is just beaten a lot of the time when it comes to it. It has 2 PL2s, which are not very good, very similar to AIM-9Bs if you've played them, has access to the 137 and 223s, and this is just in a bad place. I've played the MiG-17, I haven't played the MiG-17 AS, but I've been playing around this BR for a long time now. I'm generally spading a lot of the vehicles around it, and the Shenyang is not fast enough, and it doesn't hold energy quick enough. It's really good against 8.7s and 9.0s. Fantastic against those vehicles. It does them so much better than others. But that is not the meta right now. The meta is 10.0 and the meta is 9.7. So you get up-tiered a lot in this thing. You don't have access
2 countermeasures. So any missile which has any movement at all, like an R-60, if you don't spot it straight away, you're going to die. So that's a problem. And also the guns don't fit the meta that you see, which is either like head-ons or obviously perpendicular shots. Generally, these guns don't, play the best. I played the MiG-17. I spaded it for both nations, for China, with the form of the J4, this one where we went 74 and 25, 43% win rate, wonderful. And then the USSR, when it came to the MiG-17, once again 45% win rate with basically a 2-to-1 KD in it as well. It was not a fun spade. Both of them were not fun. They felt okay as aircraft, but there's just so many things around this BR now which are so much better than you. So it's very hard to recommend this because you'll just get battered. At the same time, the A5C exists, and this will go on offer probably in the next sale or the sale after it. This is so much better and basically has 2 point-and-click missiles that you can use in the form of the Matra Magics. So yeah, it's very hard to say, yeah, pick this one up when you can get the the A5C in a future sale, and it'll be so much better than the Shenyang, which is past its best buy date. The last one, or the last set, is for Sweden, and what you get is the CV90-105 TML pack, the Saab J29D pack as well, along with the unique decal, the Swedish Jet Snail, and the unique title of Skald. You get 4000 G and also 30 days of premium. It's nice to see that they've standardized across the board these packs. So, the first vehicle is the CV90. This one is ridiculously good. This one is what I would class as busted at 9.0. This thing should not be at 9.0. Give me 2 seconds. Oh, by the way, before somebody comments, why should we listen to a guy who uses weeb skins, I would like to remind you that the reason why I have weeb skins is because on Twitch, we have this Twitch point thing where you can redeem skins. So any skin that you see me using on this channel, I have not actually picked. So before you blame me for things that are not my fault. Anyway, CV90 105 TML. This thing is broken at 9.0. This thing should not be 9.0. It should have never been 9.0. The only reason it stays at 9.0 is because it has no lineup around it. But unlike the AMX-30 Super, this thing can hold its own at 9.0 because it has all of the bells and whistles you would ever need out of a tank ever. It has access to wonderful thermals in the form of Commander and Gunner, and they're Gen 2 as well. It has DM23 on the 105mm, which could easily be up to DM33 if they wanted to. It has laser rangefinder, it has scouting, it has artillery, it has a ton of smoke grenades. This thing is amazing. It has everything you would ever want out of a vehicle, and also has good RP, bad SL, just like the rest of them. This thing should be higher BR. It punches way above its weight. I run it at 9.7 for God's sake. I run it with the SDRF 9040 Bill, and sometimes I even run it at 10.0 with the 9040C and the 121. It is that good. It works supremely well. The only thing that limits it at that BR is the DM23 instead of another round. This thing can easily be run with stuff like the 9040B, which should also be a high BR, and also the SDRF 104 or the LVKV or the PVRBV or the VEEK, stuff like that. It's just a really, really good vehicle. It doesn't have a weakness. It has this weird upper glacis that bounces stuff that it shouldn't bounce. It also has really good turret traverse, a decent gun depression for how low the vehicle is. It also has the standard reload for the 105, and also the good round for it, and really good speed. Actually, no, it does have one weakness. It's loud. It's stupidly loud, but that's it. That's its only weakness, and you can actually work around that. So it's a fantastic vehicle, works extremely well, highly recommended. The J29D is a bathtub, but at least it's one of the better bathtubs. I've spaded the J29A, I've started on the A29B, I played the J29F a little bit. I really despise these vehicles. The reason why I don't like these vehicles is simple factors. When it comes to the J29, What you have on this is a vehicle where it has a tiny elevator on it and not great rudder, but really good ailerons. So being able to push around this vehicle and be useful in it, you just get outmaneuvered by a lot of vehicles. And because of the fact it has a tiny elevator, it means that your pilot, which right now you can see my pilot is maxed out when it comes to these things, your pilot actually becomes really he gets close to getting knocked out over and over and over again because of the tiny elevator. And this is super annoying when you're using this vehicle to fight. It does have access to 430mm though, which are really powerful and really good guns. It does get access to some interesting ground ordnance as well in the form of the rockets, which you can use, but it doesn't get any air-to-air missiles and it doesn't get anything like that. So you're very dependent to using this thing in ground realistic or in air realistic as a general fighter. I would take a Sabre or a MiG-15 BIS over this every day of the week. That's how much I don't think this vehicle is useful. It's not great. You can run it in ground if you want around the 9OBR with the CV90-105. It'll be useful for grinding out the majority of the tech tree apart from these three vehicles. So at least that's good, but the Swedish tech tree overall is a fantastic tech tree, even starting from reserve all the way up until 7.7. Even at 7.7 with the Vampire, it's really fun, and at 8.3 with the 105G, I'm sure it's fantastic. And then the Viggen is ridiculous right now and has been for a very long time. It has a ridiculously high win rate from what I've seen, so that's something to have a look at. Generally, this tech tree is really good, so I don't really think you need a premium to get up to it. But in ground forces, this can be useful. Just got to watch out for radar-guided AA, and also at the same time, watch out for the afterburner burning all of your fuel away. The J29D is subpar, but the CV90-105 is absolutely fantastic. It's a great vehicle. Anyway, that is all of the packs that are new for the sale. Hopefully this gives you a bit of insight into what to purchase. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.
I'd just like to thank Professor X 1718, Orange Tail, Sakoshi Tiger, BRFC 15, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe A, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, and then Kyle Kin, Barine, Lafouche, and also Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.